Video, we will discuss the 7 steps to effective communication. So if you implement these 7 stages or 7 steps, you can be assured about the effectiveness of your communication. So these 7 steps are what and why about the communication, how, that is selecting channel, another how, select encoding technique, consider barriers, send the message, check for understanding, and receive feedback from the recipient. So we will be delving in more detail with these 7 stages. First, what and why. First, we need to consider what is the objective, what is the aim of the communication, what do you want to achieve by this communication. Now, having more clear about that will help us become more effective with our communication. So, what could be our aim? For example, is it to give information, to persuade someone? Are you requesting for some information, or are you trying to inform someone about something? That can also dictate how you carry on your conversation and also the outcome of the conversation. Next is the selecting the channel, appropriate channel. So this has to do with how, and that also correlates with the what and why as well. So depending on the message, you want to, for example, choose the right way of saying something, or for example, um, if it is the written communication, how you deliver that message, right? That also depends on uh, your position within an organizational hierarchy, for example, right? That also oftentimes dictates which channel we use. Okay, so we consider the relationship between the sender and the recipient, as well as the recipient's background, knowledge, culture, and experience. Step 3 is selecting the appropriate encoding technique. That is, again, how we say it, the manner, the words we use, um, how we say it. For example, in writing, also the format, maybe, and all that, it comes under that. So, in terms of the message, is it urgent? Is it serious? Such things can be considered here, and depending on that, you may want to use appropriate encoding technique. Especially would be more evident in oral communication. Step 4 is consider barriers. In the previous video, we went through barriers to effective communication. So we need to consider what could be the possible barrier, because barriers can make our communication ineffective, I mean. So do consider that. If you can notice any barrier and you can do something about it, maybe you can make your communication more effective. If you can't really do anything about the barrier, then you'll just be wasting your and the recipient's time in trying to communicate. So you may want to maybe return to step 1 and 2 and maybe think about what other ways, other channels are there in conveying or in communicating the message. There may be ways that you can maybe correct the barriers, or you can maybe do something about it. If there's nothing you can do, um, then the communication cannot be effective. So think about that before you proceed onto the next step. So after having considered all the barriers and all the channels and encoding of the message and all that, now it's time to send the message. So for example, if you're in a business meeting, for example, you just deliver the message, or deliver the presentation. For example, if it's, for example, sending an email, or if you're calling someone, this is the step where you deliver the message, or you communicate. So next step is the checking for understanding. This can happen simultaneously, especially in oral communication. So you are checking for any signal uh, from the other person, whether the other person is understanding your message or not. In written communication, it might take you a little while. For example, response from the recipient, for example, with further details or something like that. That could also act as some kind of cursor in understanding or in making sure that the other person has understood the message. Now, this is more evident in definitely in face-to-face oral communication. The last step is is to obtain feedback from recipient. So again, in face-to-face communication, we are constantly getting feedback from the other person, be it verbally or be it non-verbally through body language. In written communication, again, this can be uh, the some kind of like a acknowledgement, uh, some kind of message back from the recipient. So the main thing is, was the message understood as intended by the speaker? So that's the bottom line thing. So you have to kind of ensure that the message is not understood. Something didn't happen on in between the sender and receiver, making the message different from what was intended. So a few questions. Did your expressions or language create confusion or misunderstanding? So again, the language barrier. Was your timing poor? Was the context accurate, appropriate? Was your message too long so that the main points were lost? Were you being too wordy? All right, beating around the bush. We talked about preciseness, being conciseness. Were your tone and manner appropriate? So for example, in your verbal communication, is your paraverbal, how you say it, appropriate with the message? Is your nonverbal communication appropriate with the message? Did you not structure the message logically? It's always better if we are coherent in our communication, because that helps the receiver more so, as well as the speaker as well, because you are more effective in making sure that the message hits home.